Today, Father Eamonn at the microphone for you and in front of the camera. Wave. Shout out to everybody on Facebook and YouTube Live too as well. It is the 4th of May, Wednesday morning, and lovely to have your company here. So thanks indeed for joining me and for being with me for our morning little chat, Chatechesis, an exchange indeed in terms of faith, morality and matters relating to the church as well. So do please get in touch, do please connect in with us. You are very much part of the conversation, as you know. 089 467 2000 is that text and WhatsApp number. 089 467 2000. If you want to text and WhatsApp us here, do please indeed likewise get in touch with us by email, info@radiomaria.ie. Do telephone us here on 014123456. Joan is kindly volunteering today with Miriam Martin, of course, and we'll be there to answer the phone. There's 4 lines that you can call here. 014123456. Give us a shout. +353, of course, in front of those 2 numbers if you're dialing from the north or from outside of Ireland. Send us a card. Drop us a line, write to us here at St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22 as well. Very easy to get in touch. So we do like to hear from you. Now we're looking forward to our Women of Faith conference coming up at this weekend. This will be Saturday from 2 through to 5 o'clock. And Father Marius and friends, of course, is sharing with us. You might have heard the jingles playing already, inviting you to participate in the wonderful talks that will be part of our afternoon conference here at Radio Maria, Women of Faith. So great opportunity to listen in and connect in as well. And of course, we'll have all of those ready for you as podcasts after the event in case you miss out. FOMO, isn't that what the latest acronym is? Fear of missing out. So have no FOMO, have no fear of missing out. We will podcast all of these things for you. We're developing and building and growing. I'm doing a bit of work on it myself on the podcast pages to try to fine-tune things. We have a lot of just enhancing to do because my fear at the moment is that many of our podcasts are kind of vanilla flavored and they lack a bit of substance. What you like to do, I'm sure, scrolling through podcasts is to find out, well, what are they about? What is the content? Is there anything here that might be of particular interest to me rather than just the particular presenter? If you're a frequent follower, of course, of shows, then the vanilla flavor will do you fine. You just click on the latest one that you've missed out on and play that back. But the hope is that our podcast would be a real library, a treasure trove of faith formation for you that you can participate in, and that listeners into the future who have yet to discover Radio Maria can use as a great resource to listen back to. And this is the great beauty indeed of your investment, so to speak, with us here. It's into the future and faith, formation of faith and guidance of many, many souls, please God, to come. And I certainly have the impression that podcasting is, at least at the moment, the way forward, that many people do listen in their own time rather than at the moment. The live slot, of course, is very important that we have live programming. But the podcasting just enables, again, that connection to be made at another time. And in your own time, you might be busy doing some monotonous chore, and having a little bit of background conversation might be of help to you that way. So I'm working on it and trying to reel in a little bit of extra help as well, trying to enhance all the while our podcasts. Now with our new technology, and those of you who understand all this stuff, I'm having to, like the old dog, learn a few new tricks along the way. Our website, of course, is the go-to place for all of this information. You click on the website, I have it open in front of me here on the desk actually, and you click on the program tab, and the podcast is the third one down. And when you go into the podcast, you see a fine list with images attached of the various shows and the conferences and the various other elements of our radio that have been broadcast in the past, and they're all listed there for you to listen back. If it is you can't find what you're looking for, please do let us know. But here's the beauty of the technology, is that not only on the website, but as I'm learning, at the same time, our podcasts are posted up through our apps and available on the Android app, Radio Maria Ireland, the app for iPhones, which and Android too, actually, it's called RM Play, or Radio Maria Play. And that's the international world family Radio Maria app that you can listen to any radio station you like on, every language that's available. are all streaming there on the RM Play app. And you can set it in such a way that you can access the podcasts in the very same of your favorite radio station. And so their plan is extraordinary. It's a fabulous vision. And they have people full-time developing this kind of software. And as a result, what they have then is a colossal library of podcasts from all the various radio stations in whatever language is there to be accessed. So it's just it's enormous resource. And if we have thousands of podcasts, and if it is that there's 85 radio stations, I mean, if we all had 1,000 of them each, you're surely looking at hundreds of thousands of podcasts available. Amazing, absolutely phenomenal output. And not only there, it doesn't limit itself just to the two apps, the Radio Maria Play app and Radio Maria Android app, Radio Maria Ireland, and the website. There's 3 outlets. There's 4 other sources, likewise, of podcasts as well. And if you want to just check them out, they're the ones that are commercially available. Spotify is one. And, yes, the audio would help. That's great. She's plugging me in. Thanks, Tara. Always good to have the technology to hand and the expertise on hand. So we have the 4 other commercial ones, let's say Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible is another app you can download that you get podcasts on, and iTunes, I think iTunes, because I've been looking at iTunes because I don't have a smart Apple phone. I can't seem to figure out how that's working, so I have to ask questions. I'm still, as I say, the old dog learning new tricks. But at any rate, it means that there's at least 7 sources there for accessing our podcasts. So my head sort of falls off at that stage. Too much information. How am I supposed to cope with all of this? The bottom line is that we really are going all out on the digital continent to make this presence felt and to make it easily accessible and available for you. All this work going on in the background all the time, and I'm learning stuff that I never thought I'd know anything about anytime soon, and I'm involved in stuff that I never really particularly was drawn to get so much involved in by way of social media and the internet and so on. It's a mixed blessing in some respects. So anyways, we're seeking to use it as a blessing and nothing but a blessing all the while. Very good. So I hope that's a little help to you. If it's all sort of mesmerizes your mind, well, sure, don't worry about it. Carry on regardless and keep listening away. And I know many of you listen on the television, Sairview 210, that all that technological stuff and all that talk is gibberish, and that's fine. I perfectly understand that. So don't worry about it in the least. But it is something that you might like to just store up in your head by way of telling others. So if it is that you have children or grandchildren, say, if you're of that generation and all this technology just puts you off, well, you can pass on the message to the younger generation to say, or to those of the older generation, doesn't matter what generation, but if they're into this kind of thing, and say, did you know Radio Maria Ireland is so available digitally that there's no excuse, that they have loads of podcasts available on the various podcast platforms. That's all you need to remember. And that the website is the go-to place that's easy enough to encourage people to. You can listen in, of course, on the website and listen back to the podcast too. Simplest thing of all, really. So keep that information just in mind for others that you might be wanting to encourage a little bit in the ways of faith. To say, look, you mightn't want to listen to the radio, but sure, try out a podcast or two. Check out Father Billy's Breakfast Show, for example. That's a lovely one maybe for somebody who's coming back the ways to listen into. Father Billy always has some very thought-provoking content there. Or indeed any one of the music shows. Ceolag's Crack is up there, something a bit lighter, with a small little bit of faith, sort of it was sewn into it there too. And this is the great beauty of the way Radio Maria Ireland has been developing over the years and building and growing and seeking to grow even further. So let me chat with you a little bit about Pope Francis and just the news yesterday. Extraordinary. He really is reaching out. He's quite an extraordinary Pope in many ways, and I find it just a little bit discomforting when people are critical of Pope Francis. I think it's a little bit unfair. I mean, any person, of course, who's in authority, sure, like my own position, I suppose, here, we're very exposed to all kinds of criticism, and we do come in for criticism. I suppose it's natural. It goes with the territory. You set your head above the parapet, something's going to be thrown at you. And that's okay. That's there's a place for that too. But if it is a kind of a undermining or a kind of passive aggression or a sort of a belly aching, well, my question then in reply is, well, what are you doing to help solve the problem that you're noticing? And that can kind of soften the cough a small bit, because it's all well and good to be giving out about things, but if it is that we're not doing it constructively and seeking to address it in some little way ourselves, then maybe this is coming from me. Do you know that it's me being angry out of my own inadequacy or my own unworthiness? That's something we have to battle with all the time. It's a human weakness that we're inclined to, because I'm simply incapable, or a sense of helplessness, or a sense of I don't know what else, but I lash out at others who I find fault with. And doesn't the Lord speak about this in the gospel? He says, look, take the log out of your own eye, take the beam out of your own eye before you take the speck out of your brother's eye. Humility, in other words. So I'm always just a little bit uncomfortable with those who just take the Pope to task, and there's plenty of them around, and I think it's a shocking waste of energy, in some sense, because that good energy of moaning and groaning could be far better employed at supporting the Pope in the good things that we certainly would seek him to do and wish him to do. At any rate, he's speaking out quite interestingly yesterday, just from what I heard in the Vatican News, and pleading with the Patriarch Kirill. Cyril would be, I suppose, the English name, Kirill. And just what's perceived as a kind of association of the Orthodox Church with the political mindset in the East. And so the Pope saying that rather than holding a map and showing the injustice, which is right, I mean, the Patriarch Cyril has a point, and Russia perhaps has a point. Again, I'm no expert in these things. Maybe there is a point there. We know what this is about in our own country. But the Pope says, no, look, put that down. And it's people here. These are souls. We are representatives of God. And we kind of rise above the state politics, and we leave that to the politicians. That our role is to be bearers of peace, to stand before the Lord, as it were, kind of standing between the Lord and his people. That's a priest's role. You saw in the Acts of the Apostles today that a terrible persecution broke out against the church, and the faithful fled to the hills of Judea and Samaria. But the apostles stayed put. They stayed in place. They stood before the Lord, and they stood between the Lord and this terrible persecution. And as we know, they all, in the end, except for St. John, he was exiled, but they were all martyred. This idea of standing up to be a channel between God and his people. In a way, that's the calling of the priest. It doesn't sound like a terribly pleasant role to have to play sometimes. But we stand there, and are at least called to stand there, to be intercessors in some way, to pray on behalf of you, our people, to accompany you in your great trials and difficulties and sufferings, to rejoice with you in all the great joys, to weep at times of mourning and loss, but to be there as a signpost to God, and then, as it were, bringing heaven down to earth through the holy sacrifice of the Mass, through God's Word, an instrument communicating, like a radio, channeling that voice of God to his people, a voice of peace, a voice of reconciliation, a voice that would give the hope of Christ. And it's not my message, it's not the priest's message, it's not the Pope's message that's going on here. It's not anything personal there. It's God's message. And we don't own that. It's not anyone's property. It's given. It's again the deposit of the faith that it's our mission to communicate and to pass on, to teach, to preach in season and out of season, and to stand there as it were, as mediators That's not to take, of course, from the person of Christ. But the priest stands in persona Christi, especially at the altar. This is my body, this is my blood. Take and eat, take and drink. The priest says those in the words of Christ. I baptize you. The priest says that as Christ says it. I confirm you, I absolve you. All of these expressions that are used in the liturgy are in the first person singular. My peace I give you. You know that little prayer, that peace prayer. The priests have that wrong when they ask people to pray that together at Mass. That's actually incorrect. They're not supposed to. It's not in the bold print that suggests that the congregation is supposed to pray that prayer. And I think the simple explanation is that it's in the first person. The priest is there standing as Christ. My peace I give you. These are the words Christ spoke at the Last Supper. So it's very appropriate that we have those words at that moment in the Holy Eucharist, and the priest prays them in the first person singular. So it doesn't, I know it's a nice prayer, but it doesn't make any sense for the congregation to pray that prayer. It just doesn't, because it's, again, first person. So the priest stands there between, excuse me, again as an instrument of God, and puts himself at the disposal of that, and participates to a certain extent, not, again, I suppose in martyrdom, maybe completely so. Excuse me, that cough comes back again. In the laying down of his life, and the witnessing to Christ, in the suffering of the mystical body of Christ in the Church, the priest, again, as it were, is called to bear the burdens of his people. So this really, I think, is where Pope Francis is trying to encourage his brother and our brother, the Patriarch Kirill, to say, no, our role as priests is so very, very it's different. It's not meant to be a worldly, political. And the Church itself had to learn this. I mean, we can't exactly say we're perfect in any of these things as a Church. The Church was embroiled in a lot of state politics back in the medieval times, the papal states as they were known. There was a lot of nepotism and a lot of intrigue and so on going on, and there was a certain amount of sort of politicization, if you like, of the faith. And this was how part of the reason why the Reformation came about. There was corruption going on. And so it's been ever the task of the Church to root this out and to become less worldly all the while. You see, wherever you have 2 or 3 humans gathered, there'll always be sin and selfishness, and yet Christ will be there with his grace to supply too. So this is simply, again, we accept this as part of our nature, but we don't sit idly by. We seek to transcend that by the power of God's grace. So very interesting, just words and gestures from Pope Francis. And God could bring tremendous good out of all of this. He really could, if there was some way of dissolving the escalation, dissolving some of the opposition and the violence. This could become a great turning point for union between East and West, a new communion. But it demands a laying down of weapons. It demands humility. It demands allowing God into the conversation. How else can there be peace? We human beings are so prone to vengeance and to retaliation and all of these things. So the Pope is really a voice in the wilderness in the middle of all of that, and has no unenviable task to be that instrument to the world. So just paying close attention to the Vatican and the news there, and seeing the great threats that stand over us, which might well cause us worry and anxiety. And what I would say is, do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not allow yourselves to succumb to anxiety. Maybe turn off, and if you're listening to Radio Maria, you've already done it, turn off some of the secular sources of news that would be inclined towards excessive negativity, and can be a little bit disturbing and even kind of soul destroying in some ways, because they undermine our confidence in the things of God, and they distract us really from what is a priority. And let's reinvest our time, or re-establish ourselves certainly steeped in a life of prayer and of concern for neighbour, and have the sleeves rolled up and be actively engaged in the life of the church, that we in our own little small circle can be bearers of peace to others, and the light of the resurrection, and a companionship to others, even if it's only a smiling face, a wave, a little concern shown for one another, that kind of friendliness that you find in a good family home, that if we can radiate at least a little bit of that, we'll certainly be playing our part nobly in the task of bringing the peace of Christ into the world. And that demands no small patience already. You're a general in your own army, so to speak, a soldier in your own battle. It doesn't demand the taking up of weapons, except, say, the rosary. So here with Radio Maria, we'll support you all the way with that task, and we know indeed it's bearing tremendous fruit. We have such beautiful messages coming to us all the time. It's so encouraging for us, and thank you for those. To know that, again, Radio Maria is a little instrument to help you and encourage you on that journey of faith. I want to say a bit more about our Mariathon. I really want to dwell on it a little bit ahead of time. We're actually starting on Tuesday next through Friday, which is our 7th birthday. This is Friday the 13th, the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima. And there's a lovely online magazine which has been produced, PDF. We've got the link there on our website. We'll send out the link to you on WhatsApp. We'll send it out as a newsletter to all of you whose email address we have. So you may get it a couple of times, but well worth kind of seeing Our Lady's hand is at work. I mean, if this isn't, an instrument bringing about the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, I don't know what is. I mean, show me something else. Certainly I would believe the Legion of Mary is playing its most vital role on the ground, kind of ground troops. I like this idea that Radio Maria is the air support to the ground troops, all these great legions of Mary, devotees of Our Lady that are scattered far and wide, like her troops in her own army, and vanquishing evil through living a virtuous life, through the praying of the rosary, through the first Saturday devotions, through confession. This is an army of people, and Radio Maria is gathering those troops very gently and very firmly, bit by bit, the world over. That's why the Mariathon is just such a glorious moment, because it's our opportunity to really rally the troops, rally our support for these growing Radio Maria stations. We know well here in Ireland, I've been here for 5 years, and it's still a struggle. We're still not making ends meet. We just aren't. It's just not physically possible, and we're seeing, fall off in donations here since the deliverance from restrictions and lockdowns. We kind of had a bit of artificial growth, you might say. The growth is continuing, but it's slow and it's gentle, and it'll still take more time. I know we'll get there in Our Lady's good time. It means we have to be very dependent on her. We just fall back on the blessings that she gives at her own disposition. So we know well the struggle it is to get established as a Radio Maria station against that tidal wave of all kinds of obstacles, not least of which is the opposition of the world, the flesh and the devil. But we have been assisted very gallantly and very nobly by many of you indeed, and by many wonderful listeners elsewhere, whom we will only meet in eternity. Won't know who you are until we get there. Certainly listeners in Germany, in Austria, and in Italy particularly, where the radios are doing so much better, and they're able to help the weaker stations. But now it's our turn, and we're doing that in this great spirit again of the great battle that has been fought. I don't mean of a violent nature, I mean for souls, and a spiritual battle. So the message from Father Livio Fanzaga, he's the priest director in Radio Maria Italy, and of course of the World Family too. He said, "Dear friends, the Mariathon is one of Radio Maria's most beautiful moments, because it sees so many people's participation, their joy, their gratitude for the gifts of Radio Maria, as well as the desire to make their own contributions to spreading Radio Maria in the world. It is first and foremost a spiritual moment, because we need to become aware of what is truly a gift from our Blessed Lady." So that's a nice little opening message from Father Livio there. It's true. And we celebrate with great joy. We thank Our Lady for this incredible gift, most especially for our times. And we really have a part to play, and you can help us in that. And we can assure you that everything that comes here is just, like I say, it's a flowing river. It comes in and it goes back out the door as soon as it comes in. The more bills came in, the emails today. Well, listen, I know what it's like being a dad now in a home. How are we going to meet all these bills? And thank you indeed. Many of you are so kind and so good to us. We rejoice. We're still here and we're not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. Radio Maria, he goes on, is Mary's gift, a gift of the Queen of Peace. We see how it was miraculously spread throughout the world, supported by the people's love, especially the simplest and poorest people, who many times have made personal and familial sacrifices to help Radio Maria. During the Mariathon, now it's going to be next week, it's Tuesday through Friday of next week for us here. It'll be right throughout the month of May for other radio stations too. There is this moment of finding ourselves coming together to thank Our Lady for this wonderful gift that she has given us, because she has given us this seed that has been planted, watered, and like a small mustard seed, it has grown into a large tree in the garden of the church. And that's certainly true. Millions of listeners worldwide, 85 radio stations, or probably more, I haven't got the latest count, and just doing marvellous work everywhere, just as we seek to do here in Ireland. This is what Radio Maria has become. So it is a giving thanks to Our Lady for this gift, but at the same time, it's also the Mariathon, a moment to become aware of our responsibilities. Our Lady has put this gift in our hands. Amen. She certainly has. Now I'm going to pause for a little break, a little musical interlude, if I may. Please do get in touch with us. We're here at 089 467 2000 to text and WhatsApp us here. We'd love to hear from you. Put a 353, a plus 353 in front of that, as you know, 089 467 2000. Give a call here. Joan is downstairs. We'd love to hear from you and speak with you. 014 1234560 014 1234556. Email us info@radiomaria.ie. Now the Singing Nuns, I believe Tara has lined up for us there on this day, O beautiful mother. Thanks, Shane.
On this day, O beautiful mother, on this day we give thee our love. Near thee, Madonna, fondly we hover, trusting thy gentle care to prove. On this day we ask to share, dearest Mother, thy sweet care. Aid us ere our feet astray, wander from thy guiding way. On this day, O beautiful mother, on this day we give thee our love. Near thee, Madonna, fondly we hover, trusting thy gentle care to prove. Thus our days of life we run, soon the night of death will come. Tower of strength in that dread hour, come
Oh, beautiful piece of music there. A nice choice from Tara. She really has wonderful taste, thanks to Shane. And Thomas is shadowing him there, learning the ropes. We've invited a few students over from the sound training colleges here in Dublin to come and get a bit of experience with us at Radio Maria. And we've told them ahead of time, well, by the way, it is actually a faith-based radio, in case you have any issues with that side of things, just to let them know, look, it's a Catholic radio station. This is what you're buying into if you want to come in for a bit of experience. And they come in and just volunteer. We have 2 or 3 of them lined up now, and nice young lads who are into audio and into radio and into these things, and just throw them in, give them a bit of experience, and show them what it's all about. It's a nice thing, and they come in and spend a few hours here and help us out with our work as well. So that's a nice little thing we can do, and we hope indeed it might be a little good influence upon them as well in their own personal journeys too. Now, thanks for your message, Janine. Poor old Janine listens in very early in the morning there in the east coast of the US, going for a full reverse shoulder replacement tomorrow morning. That sounds sort of painful. So she's had 2 years now with unsuccessful surgery, and please God, she's a very good doctor, and she feels this, please God, will be the surgery she needs. So I have no idea. Full reverse shoulder replacement sounds... I had a bad shoulder once, and I got one of these... what do they call those injections that they give you? Are they steroids, or I don't know what, cortisone maybe? And man, it did the trick. It was the business. It was because it was quite painful for a bit. And I know what brought it on. I was doing a lot of wood chopping. I got this big axe and was tearing it, and it was a great outlet by way of exercise, but damaged my shoulder. So it was funny, actually. I went to the doctor and I said, I was doing a lot of practicing the piano that time. God be with the days. And I said, I wonder if I've got a repetitive strain injury. And he said, you're joking me. You want to be lifting the piano, not playing it. So I'm pretty sure it was all the wood chopping I was doing that time too. Anyways, that was funny. So anyway, Janine, please God, we lift you up in prayer. I hope that surgery goes well. It sounds like you'll be out of action for a little bit and recovering for some time with that too. So glad to receive your prayer request and intention. So Father Livio just sharing with you just some nice thoughts from him in our Mariathon magazine. Do download it, do have a look at the PDF file there. As soon as you go on our website, there's a couple of clickable links there. The first 2 images you'll see on the banner, and you can click and download it. We'll send you the link as well, and if anybody wants it, let us know. There's a few videos. Let's go through the videos, see if we can replay 1 or 2 of them for you on air as well. So he was talking about the Mariathon, that Our Lady has put this gift into our hands, and that certainly has been my impression from the outset. Coming to Radio Maria 5 years ago, I was looking around this building thinking, man, look at these facilities, that it's like being handed a Rolls Royce and the keys and the tank is full, and okay, or a Bentley, or name your posh car. And here you go, off you go, take it for a drive. Wow. So they really didn't spare any expense in terms of getting the right equipment and setting the right standard technologically to make sure that there was no excuse to be able to preach the gospel. So it's a gift given into our hands. And like I say, no one here owns any of this. None of us are taking any credit or any of that. There's none of this celebrity nonsense or any of that kind of thing. We're simply here as servants of this gift, which is why we like to invite you to come and take a look and see for yourself. It belongs to you. You're our listeners, and this is your radio station. So it is as if she has given us the talents to make it blossom, and we can see how these talents have truly borne fruit over time, how we have reached the achievement. It's saying here 122 Radio Maria stations around the world. I think what he's adding in there is some of the repeater stations. Yes, I think so. I'd have to do the research on that now myself. And I'd love, actually, I was finding if they actually have a list of where all those 122 stations are. The last number I'd heard was 85. I understood that in African countries like Democratic Republic of the Congo, is a vast country, many times the size of Ireland. They have repeater stations, and they're repeating in different languages in different sides of the country, depending on where they're bordering and that. And that's true of many of the huge African countries. They have quite a few repeater stations, and I think that might be included in that figure. But it's very impressive, 122. It is something marvellous, a true miracle of the Queen of Peace, but it is a miracle that Our Lady has performed with our contribution, with our joy, our enthusiasm, and sometimes even with very great sacrifices. So like the boy in the Gospel, the loaves and the fish, he gave what he had, and this is what we seek to do in our faith. We come, we give what we have. It might not be much, we might not think it's much, but in God's eyes he can multiply, like the water and the wine, the 6 stone jars. They put in what they had, and the Lord turned it into the best wine. Dear friends, I would like to say that this is a sign of the times. In these difficult times that we go through, a time of suffering, a time of trials, a time of unrest and of confusion, Our Lady truly knows how much we need this radio, which enlightens, guides, comforts, and gives peace. And this is the universal experience, naturally, where Our Lady is present and where she's invoked. The Mariathon, therefore, is also a time to bring new energy to spread Radio Maria, because Our Lady is in a hurry. I suspect she is, in the sense that there's always an urgency. If heaven is intervening in some way, you better believe it's important. I tell you most solemnly, sit up, pay attention. There's work to be done here. So there is the urgency. And if souls are at stake, not alone people's lives and livelihood and land and property and so on, all very important in their own right, but souls, surely. So Our Lady's in a hurry. She is eager to reach everywhere. I wonder, it's a bit like a mother in a household. She's really busy all the time, with the small children particularly. And it's as if she's in a hurry. There's always 1,000 things to do. And the children, if they can muck in and row in and do their part, makes for a much happier mum and a much happier household too. She is eager to reach everywhere. We see how they call us from all sides, and we must therefore be up to these times. We must respond to the call generously, and remember, dear friends, that everything we offer to Our Lady, we will receive 100-fold in paradise. Happy Mariathon. So that's a nice message from Father Livio. He's the priest director and founder of Radio Maria himself, and lovely man Emanuele Ferrario, a real tough Italian businessman. I met him a few years ago when I went to Italy. He's since died and gone to his eternal reward. And I remember visually now, you won't be able to quite understand it audibly, but we had a little meeting with him just before 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now. 4 or 5 years, I went to Italy, and we're sitting around with Emanuele Ferrario and some of the higher authorities, let's say, of the World Family, and they were kind of putting us up to the Radio Maria Ireland. Come on, you're the English-speaking radio here in Europe. Get on with the job, kind of thing. What are you doing? And there was just one moment in the meeting when Emanuele Ferrario just made an Italian gesture. The way they kind of bring their thumb and fingers together, and they at the wrist, they shake the hand back and forth, as if to say, it looks like, to us anyway, kind of a tut-tut, a kind of, what? And he's looking around the room as if, come on, what are you doing? Get on with the job. It was a funny moment. Again, because a tough businessman, he meant business. It was a serious moment too, but afterwards you could smile. Because, again, there was nothing untoward about it. It was really just the zeal, just the passion for the project, knowing the fruitfulness of it, knowing the capability of preaching the gospel in this way and bringing the gospel to people is like, get on with the job. So that's a nice message from Father Livio there. We'll share with you a bit more. John Carlin, please God, will join me tomorrow. It's the first Thursday of the month for our sermon on the Mount, and a little bit of a pep as well. Just letting you know how we're doing and anticipating the Mariathon next week as well. We're just keeping it Mariathon themed this while, and it's just such a lovely time to rejoice. And actually there's a lovely voice message came in there yesterday. We will start putting together the voice messages that you send in to us too, and playing them back for you. So do consider that just a little voice message of support, of encouragement, of thanks, of what's your your favourite show? What do you like about Radio Maria? How does it work for you? And think of it not so much as drawing attention to yourself, rather as a message that others will hear and will encourage them to share the good news and to participate in it likewise as well. So do send us in a voice message as part of our Mariathon in the coming days. So we'll be in touch again with more of that, and it's actually a very beautifully produced magazine that I'm just sharing little excerpts from you. And as I say, there's video clips that you can click on in that as well and get a little bit more update, because the radio belongs to you, and I would hope that you would kind of have a vested interest in that way to know, well, how is it doing? What are the needs? What's happening? So they've done a great job, the World Family, in producing that document there. Good, I better stop there and hold back, and let's turn to Our Lady in prayer. So it's just coming up to 12 o'clock. Our bells will allow us a brief pause. We'll pray together our Regina Celli and our midday prayer. God bless for now.